Her own children, filled with pride and selfishness, turned her into a housemaid and kicked her out of the mansion she built when her fortune vanished. What they didn't realize was that it was all a setup, and how she responded will leave you speechless. If this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and let us know where you're watching from. Madame Adijua Filet, also called Mama Cash or Carrie, sat behind her grand mahogany desk, alone in the stillness of her study. Her gaze was fixed on a bare wall, as if it had a message only she could read. Her wrapper glinted softly, her blouse crisp and tidy, she looked like someone preparing for a serious meeting. But there was nothing scheduled. She wasn't heading anywhere. She hadn't moved in nearly an hour. Her chin rested on one hand, the other hung loosely by her side. She wasn't blinking. She wasn't breathing deeply. She was just frozen. Inside her chest, something hot and quiet was burning. At 69, she had once had it all. 3 warehouses. 6 thriving shops. A mansion that made strangers stop and snap photos. Her name echoed across markets. Her face was familiar from TV interviews. Her wealth had sustained not just her family, but other families too. Yet none of that, not the respect, not the money, not the mansion, not the greetings of, "Good morning Ma," with folded hands, could cover up the growing shame crawling up her chest. Because for all her achievements, her children were disappointments. She shut her eyes slowly as the pain moved from her stomach up to her throat. The memories came rushing back. Her husband died when their children were still young. Less than 2 weeks after the funeral, his family kicked her out, no warning, no compassion. She carried one child on her back and the other in her arms, and left with only a worn gonna-must-go bag. She remembered sleeping on bare floors in someone's boys' quarters. Selling Accra with a crying baby tied to her back. Sitting in packed Danfo buses, her head balancing rolls of fabric in the sweltering heat. Drinking Gary while saving rice for her kids. She remembered running overdrafts just to pay school fees. Forgetting her birthdays. Borrowing from friends. Lying awake praying her landlord wouldn't disgrace her in front of her children. She remembered fasting for 21 days, just to scrape together enough for WEC exams. She had built her empire from scratch. From a lone table at Oshodi Market, to shipping containers from China. She became a legend. A self-made queen in Lagos fabric trade. The woman who rose without a man. Her mansion. She built it brick by brick. Paid cash for every block, every window, every fence. And now? Now she was trapped in that same house, surrounded by 2 grown adults who couldn't even pick up a broom. Her son, Tosin, had once been her pride. She gave him the best education. Paid school fees in dollars. Sent him abroad every summer. When he graduated, she cooked 5 coolers of rice and danced with joy. He returned and told her boldly, "I don't want a job, Mom. I want to be a businessman like you." The confidence in his voice masked the foolishness in his heart. He said he wanted to import tires. Asked for 3.5 million Nigerian nairas. She gave him 5 million Nigerian nairas. 3 months later, nothing. No feedback, no result. Before she could even ask, he was back with a new pitch. "Mommy, crypto is the future, 5 million Nigerian nairas now, 30 million Nigerian nairas by December." She gave it to him. This time, the money vanished even quicker. Then came perfumes. Then gym gear. Then a laundry pickup app. Each idea more absurd than the last. Every time, she handed him millions. And every time, he failed. Still, he wore designer outfits and told her. "It's not failure, Mom, it's learning." Learning that was devouring her savings like a hungry goat. Her daughter, Taniela, wasn't any better. After university, she returned and declared she had discovered her dream. Lifestyle influencing. Mommy, I just need a ring light, a good camera, and a cute backdrop. I want to be a beauty and fashion creator. Adijua didn't quite understand it, but she still gave her everything. Even turned a guest room into a mini studio, assigned staff to help her. 6 months later, Tenny dropped it all. Said it was too hard. No one's liking my posts, she said. She grumbled for days, then came back the following week with a new idea. She wanted to start an online bag and shoe business. Adijua handed her 1.5 million Nigerian nairas without hesitation. Barely a month into it, every bag that was meant for sale had already been worn and styled by her daughter. When her mother asked where the inventory went, she replied, "I had to model them first, obviously." Adijua nearly used one of those same bags to give her a fresh head model. Then came the final straw. Tosin got a girl pregnant. When Adijua asked him what happened, he casually said he wasn't ready for marriage, that he was still trying to figure out his life. "Not ready?" she asked in a dangerously calm tone. "But your sperm was ready. You planted cassava and now that it's harvest season, you're hiding." She dragged him to the girl's family and arranged a small introduction ceremony. 1 month later, the girl moved into the mansion. That's when Adijua's real suffering began. The girl would leave plates stacked in the sink. She'd watch television all day long. She started strolling around in bum shorts and crop tops, barking orders like she owned the house. One day she had the audacity to say, "Mummy, can we change this couch? It's giving outdated vibes." Adijua almost fainted right there. As if that wasn't enough, her daughter showed up one Saturday afternoon, carrying a baby in a travel bag. "Mummy, I've left my husband," she announced proudly. "He was treating me like a maid." Imagine, me, cooking and sweeping, me, a baby girl. Adijua looked at her, then looked at the child, and said, "Nothing." So now, the mansion was overcrowded, 2 adult children, a loud daughter-in-law, 3 grandchildren, and only one person working to put food on the table and keep the lights on. The same woman who had built it all from zero. Every night, she heard them laughing in the living room, scrolling through TikTok, watching Netflix. Meanwhile, her bank account was thinning out like air. One night, she sat at her desk again, rested her chin in her hand, and whispered, "I poured my blood into this life, and now the people I bled for are sucking me dry." She opened her drawer and pulled out an old business card. Barrister Fola, estate and property consultant. She picked up her phone. "Hello barrister, this is Adijua. I want to do something. I want to test my children." She paused. "If they fail, I'll treat them the way life never did." It started like a well-rehearsed drama, quiet, calculated, and deliberate. Madame Sua Filet came home one evening and slammed the door so hard the frame shook. Her wrapper was half loose, scarf dangling on her head like it had been through war. Her handbag dropped to the floor like it had finally given up. Before anyone could speak, she burst into loud sobs. "I'm finished. I'm destroyed. Everything is gone." The entire house went into panic. Tosin rushed down shirtless. Tenny stormed out with one eyelash hanging. Chioma, the daughter-in-law, paused her cooking tutorial on YouTube and walked to the parlor with greasy fingers. "Mummy, what's wrong? Please don't do this." "What happened?" Adijua sank into the center couch, threw her head back, and wailed louder. "They've ruined me. All my sweat, my tears, my life's work, it's all gone." Tenny dropped to her knees beside her. "Mummy, who did this?" Sniffling, Adijua turned her head slowly, locking eyes with each of them. "There was a fire," she whispered. "A massive one." Gasps filled the room. She dabbed her nose with the corner of her wrapper and continued. "It started in Oshodi. Nobody knows how. Once the flames began, hoodlums stormed the market. They looted, broke in, burned everything. My warehouse, all the goods, even the container from China I just shipped, gone. My entire savings, finished. They destroyed me, she cried again, voice cracking. The room fell dead silent. Even the housemaid hiding in the hallway froze. Mummy, so what do we do now? Tozen asked, his voice trembling. She turned to him slowly. What do we do? Aren't you a grown man? Aren't you my first son? He blinked in confusion. I only have this house and my car left, she said quietly. The account is empty. Everything else? Ashes. More silence. Then Tenny spoke up. But Mummy, my birthday is next week. Adijua turned toward her like a lioness sizing up prey. You said. Tenny lowered her voice. Nothing. Then Tozen cleared his throat. Mummy, about my son's birthday next month, we already printed the banner. Adijua stood up sharply. You're talking about birthdays? While I'm telling you I've lost everything. That's how I know I failed as a mother. She left them standing in stunned silence and dragged her bag up the stairs without another word. The next morning, she didn't come down for breakfast. No one heard a sound. By afternoon, the driver came forward and announced that he had been let go. By evening, all the house staff were gone. Madame Adijua said she could no longer afford to pay anyone. Just like that, a mansion that once felt like a five-star hotel turned into a haunted house. Everyone assumed the children would adjust. They didn't. They just waited. The second day, she remained in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling as though something invisible crawled across it. Her thoughts were far. Her heart was heavy. Her voice, missing. Tenny crept into her room. Mummy, you're not going to the market today. Adijua didn't even turn. There is no market to return to, she whispered. It's all gone. And that was when it hit them. The buffet was closed. And then the real struggle began. By the end of the first week, everything felt different. The food supply dropped. The television went quiet. The laughter dried up. And one by one, everyone began trying to save themselves. Tenny stopped wearing wigs. She now carried her baby like a fashion accessory, an emotional support handbag. She would let out long, tired sighs while scrolling endlessly on Instagram, hoping one of her soft life friends would announce a giveaway. Tozen mostly lingered in the backyard. When he came inside, it was either to plug in his phone or grumble about the heat. Despite everything, Adijua still rose early each morning. She swept the compound. She washed the dishes. She mopped the floor, like clockwork. One particular morning, while she was sweeping under the couch, Tozen simply lifted his legs, eyes glued to his phone, like she was the hired help. Chioma sat on the armrest, lazily sipping tea and scrolling through her feed while the grandchildren dashed around the house, their muddy feet dirtying the floor she had just cleaned. Tenny emerged from her room, walked up to the mirror beside the dining area, and said casually. Mummy, shift small, let me see myself. Adijua stepped aside slowly, broom still in hand, her lips sealed, tears silently building in her throat. She didn't respond. She just kept sweeping. It was Chioma who first truly revealed herself. One morning she went to the market, bought ingredients, and cooked one fragrant pot of jollof rice. The scent filled the house. Everyone thought, maybe she's finally pulling her weight. Until she served only herself, her husband, and their children. Not even a spoonful for the woman who designed and paid for the kitchen. After eating, she washed the pot, cleaned the dishes, and marched back to her room like she had completed a world peace assignment. That evening, Adijua sat quietly at the dining table, sipping watery pap and chewing dry groundnuts, her eyes red, not just from pepper. The next day, Tenny outdid her. She returned from town with a single large takeaway pack. She disappeared into her room and split it with her son. When Adijua knocked softly on the door and asked if she could have just a bit, Tenny responded. Mummy, it was really small. Oh, I didn't even eat well myself. That night, Adijua took her blood pressure meds with banana and plain water. No protein. No fruit. Just silence. The grandchildren stopped greeting her properly. The house staff were long gone. The fridge was empty. And the silence? It was deafening. But she didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just watched. Week 2 passed. Then week 3. No one offered help. No one asked how she was managing. No one checked her wallet. And then, one morning, she woke up sweating and aching. Her throat was dry. Her head was pounding. Her whole body felt like it had been through war. She called out to Tosin to take her to the hospital. He frowned and said, "Mummy, things are tight right now. Just rest and try paracetamol." She nodded weakly and watched him walk away. Later that day, she put on her shoes, shuffled out of the compound, and walked to the small pharmacy near the estate gate. She begged for malaria medicine, on credit. This was the same woman who once donated 2 generators to the local health center. Now she was pleading for basic medication like a stranger. That night, lying in bed with her body shaking and her fingers trembling, she whispered only one sentence. "God, they failed." A few days later, her body began to recover. The fever eased. The cough lingered, but at least she could now sweep without gripping the wall for balance. You would think this would prompt her children to show concern. You would expect someone to notice how pale she looked. But no. That week, instead of care, she began receiving instructions. "Mummy, this floor smells weird," Tenny said one morning, sipping a smoothie. "Can you mop it again? And maybe use Dettol this time?" Adijua just stared. It didn't stop there. Pamela, the daughter-in-law, walked past her in the kitchen, rolled her eyes, and said, "You left dishes in the sink since morning, are we pigs now?" Her voice was sharp. Too sharp. Adijua turned from the pot she was monitoring. "Excuse me? Who are you talking to?" "Oh, a beg," Pamela waved her off. "If you're staying here, at least be useful. Or do you expect me to cook for you too? I'm not your maid." Oh. Adijua began to tremble. Not from fear, but from rage. She turned to her son. "You heard what your wife just said to me?" Tosin didn't look away from the PlayStation. "Mama, a beg, just leave her. Pamela's been stressed lately." Adijua blinked slowly. "I'm your mother." "Yes, but you can't expect people to keep cooking and cleaning for you all the time. You said there's no money anymore, right? So everyone has to contribute now." Adijua looked around the house. The house she built. The floors she chose tile by tile from Italy. The chandeliers she imported from Dubai. The paint colors she fought the engineers about for 2 whole weeks. Now, they were telling her to pitch in. She said nothing. And then it was a scorching Thursday afternoon when Tenny stormed into the living room like a whirlwind. She was dressed in a crop top and shorts, a scarf haphazardly tied around her head. "Mommy, a beg shift, I need that mirror. I have a video to shoot." Adijua looked up from her chair, where she was folding old wrappers. "Video? What kind of video?" "Mummy, please, don't start," Tenny snapped. "It's a TikTok video. You won't get it." Adijua said nothing. Then, just loud enough to be heard, Tenny muttered. "Some people's mothers are living soft lives. Me, I have to share mirror with someone that's turned our house into one room. Face me, I face you." Adijua stood up abruptly. Her wrapper dropped to the floor. She had had enough. "Everybody come out. Now. Tosin. Pamela. All of you." They trickled in one by one, faces half asleep, uninterested. "What now, Mommy?" Tosin asked, yawning. Adijua pointed at each of them. I am still your mother. The woman who gave you everything. This house you walk through like you own it, I built it. Brick by brick. With my sweat, with my sacrifice, with my life. Tenny scoffed. Pamela rolled her eyes. Tosin, he laughed. Mommy, the same house that you built in my name? He paused. The house documents say Tosin Falai. Or you think we didn't know what you were planning? You wanted to control us forever. Adijua froze. Well, it's over. You're old, you're broke, you're a burden. You should even be thankful we let you stay this long. Her voice broke. What did you just say to me? Pamela stepped forward confidently. We've talked. All of us. You need to move out. You need rest. Go to an old people's home or something. Let us enjoy peace of mind. Adijua just stood there, mouth agape. Then Tenny disappeared into her room, only to return minutes later with a battered suitcase. She marched into her mother's room, flung open the wardrobe, and started yanking clothes out like a crazed trader at Oshodi Market. Tenny! What are you doing? Adijua followed her, voice shaking. I'm helping you pack. Isn't that what you want? You want rest, we want peace. Everybody wins. Tosin entered next. He picked up the bag, dragged it to the living room, and dropped it with a thud. Mommy, please leave with dignity. Don't make this more embarrassing than it already is. Pamela walked to the front door, swung it open and said with mock concern. Let some fresh air touch your body, Ma. It's good for elders. Adijua didn't say a word. She bent down, picked up her wrapper, walked to the door, and stepped out. Behind her, the gate clicked shut. The sound echoed louder than any insult. Later that day, she checked into a 5-star hotel. She ordered jollof rice and goat meat. She lay down on a soft bed that didn't creak, under crisp white sheets, and cried, for 2 full hours. It had been a week since they threw her out of her own house. The house she built. The house where she raised them. Where she prayed for them. Where she sacrificed everything for them. 7 whole days since her daughter, Tiniola, packed her belongings like she was evicting an overstaying tenant. Since her first son, Tosin, the baby she nursed with bleeding nipples, picked up that same box and hurled it out the gate like junk. That was the moment she became a stranger in the mansion she once called home. Now, she sat in a luxury suite at Providence Heights Hotel. The AC hummed louder than her thoughts. The duvet felt like snow against her skin. Her food, untouched, sat beside her, cold. The silence? Still louder than anything else. And not a single call. No message from Tosin. Not even a text from Tiniola to ask, Mommy, are you okay? Instead, what she got was a service charge bill from the estate manager. And news from her friend, Madame Bunmi, that her children were bragging in public. We now own the Banana Island house. Adijua let out a bitter laugh. She wiped her eyes, picked up her phone, and dialed a familiar number. Good evening, Ma, came Barrister Fola's voice, calm and respectful. Good evening, she replied. Then. Come to my hotel tomorrow morning. Bring all the documents. I'm ready to rewrite my will. There was a pause. Are you sure, Ma? You sound upset. I'm not upset, she said quietly. I'm finally ready. At 10 a.m. the next day, Barrister Fola arrived. Briefcase in hand. Face unreadable. He found her sitting by the tall window, dressed in soft blue silk, sipping pineapple juice. Her face was lightly made up, but the swelling around her eyes couldn't be fully hidden. She didn't offer him a seat. She simply turned to him and said. Write this down. From today onward, Tosin Falai is no longer my next of kin. The pen paused mid-air. Remove him, she said. Remove Tiniola too. In fact, remove all of them. She rose from her seat and walked slowly toward the lawyer. Her voice steady. Her eyes heavy. I have birthed. I have breastfed. I have clothed. I have trained. I have suffered. And their thank you was to throw me out of my own home. She exhaled slowly. I want my new next of kin to be the foundation I've been planning for years, the Adijua Filet Women of Strength Foundation. She paused to let it settle. Every single thing, my shops, my real estate, my savings, all of it goes there. Barrister Fola blinked, stunned. Madam, are you sure you want to disinherit your children? Adijua smiled. But the sorrow still lingered in her eyes. Barrister, let me explain something. The market women I once gave free food to treated me better than my own children. From now on, my labor, my life's work, will serve those who will never call me a liability. And with that, she picked up the pen and signed. Her hand didn't tremble once. 1 week later, Banana Island Estate witnessed a convoy it would never forget. It was a bright Wednesday morning when Adijua returned. But she didn't come back alone. In the lead was a sleek black Prado SUV. Close behind it, a second car pulled up. Inside were Barrister Fola, dressed sharply in a black suit, holding a leather-bound folder, and 2 stern-faced police officers holding a court order. They parked in front of the mansion like it was a movie set. Tosin stepped out onto the balcony in boxers and bathroom slippers, toothbrush still in his mouth. He froze mid-brush. Tiniola came downstairs, wig cap askew, dressed in a short wrapper and glued to her TikTok feed. Then, the car door opened. Adijua stepped out slowly, like royalty. Her wine-red lace shimmered under the morning sun. Her head tie was grand, regal, firm. Her face. Ice. Eyes unreadable. Chin lifted like a woman who knew she'd just taken her power back. Nobody spoke. Until Barrister Fola stepped forward, brought out a sealed envelope, and said in a clear voice. You are both hereby served a 7-day quit notice. According to these legal documents, this property has been reclaimed by the rightful owner, Madame Adijua Filet. Tiniola's phone slid out of her hand. She ran forward, eyes wide. Mommy. Mommy please. We didn't mean it. Adijua raised one hand. Keep your sorry. Then she turned to Tosin. You said I should just die, didn't you? That you were waiting for me to go so you could inherit everything. She reached into her handbag, pulled out 2 sealed envelopes. Here, 20 million Nigerian naira each. That's all you'll get. Now go, and build your own empire. But as for this house, my name, my legacy, you will never touch it again. Tosin fell to his knees. Tiniola followed. They cried, begged, screamed. Adijua didn't flinch. I gave birth to you, she said, her voice like steel, but I will not be buried by you. Then she turned to the officers. Escort them out. As her children were led away from the house they once ruled, heads bowed, Tiniola sobbing, Tosin whispering, Mommy, please, Adijua turned, stepped slowly into her mansion. The marble floor felt cold under her feet. The chandelier still glittered. But the air still smelled of betrayal. She closed the door gently behind her, turned the key, and whispered to no one in particular. You wanted me gone. Now live without me. 2 weeks after Madame Adijua kicked her children out of the Banana Island mansion, the whole of Lagos was buzzing. Tosin and Tiniola had left with fake pride, loudly rejecting the 20 million Nigerian nairas each their mother had offered. They stormed out like they had a plan. Tosin, wife and kids in tow, went to squat with an old friend. Tiniola found a corner in an ex-classmate's house, where she got a side-eye every time she opened the fridge. They were determined to prove her wrong. Tosin launched T-Connect Tires, a tire importation business, using borrowed money from an old crypto buddy. Tiniola revived her Instagram, announcing the grand opening of Tenny Lux, an online boutique. Both businesses flopped before they even started. Tosin ordered the wrong tire sizes. His goods got stuck at the port. The customs officer he tried to bribe ended up swindling him. Tiniola spent more time curating selfies than fulfilling orders. Her customers dragged her online for fake products and disappearing after payment. In less than 2 months, they were broke. Frustrated. Hungry. The same children who once shouted, "We're grown now. Mommy can't control us," were now whispering, "Maybe we should go back," and beg. And beg they did. They showed up at the Banana Island gate one Saturday morning, dressed in faded clothes, faces drawn and tired. "Gate man, please tell Mommy we're here," Tiniola said, her voice trembling. He didn't flinch. He stepped inside and returned moments later with a message. "Madam say make I throw Una out." They stood stunned. Tosin tried to call her. Switched off. Tiniola sent long apology texts. No reply. They tried again the next day. And the next. And the next week. Nothing. So they changed strategy. They brought their pastor. Then their old Sunday school teacher. Their mother's cousin from the village. Community leaders from Osun State came wrapped in headscarves and loaded with Bible verses. Even the estate chairman's wife came, sipping malt slowly in Adajua's living room as she pleaded on their behalf. It took 3 full months of begging. Until, one Tuesday evening, Adajua finally told the gate man. Let them in. They entered quietly, dropped to their knees before her in the parlor. Tiniola cried like rainfall. Tosin wiped his tears with his shirt sleeve. "Mommy, we have suffered," he whispered. "We've learned," Tiniola added. "Please forgive us." Adajua said nothing for a long time. Then she finally asked. "Have you truly learned what it means to suffer? What it means to work with your hands?" They nodded quickly. "Good," she said. "Because my forgiveness is free. But my inheritance? It's gone." They looked up, confused. "I've given everything to charity," she said, without emotion. "Every single thing. This house. Now owned by the foundation. My shops. Leased to an orphanage. You threw me out, so now, the children who never had mothers will enjoy what I built." "Mommy," Tiniola gasped. "Mama, please," Tosin started. She raised her hand. "I've forgiven you. But I want you to learn to stand. Stand without me. Stand without what I built. Build your own legacy. Let your children respect you for what you created, not what you collected." They wept. They begged. But there was no turning back. The prodigal children had returned. But the inheritance was gone. From that day forward, Tosin and Tiniola worked harder than they ever had. And Madame Adajua? She smiled quietly from her balcony, sipping chilled zobo in the evening breeze. "Let them grow," she whispered. "Let them become someone." Eventually, she called them in again. Handed them the same 20 million Nigerian nairas each, the one they had once rejected. "Use it wisely this time," she said. "This is your seed. Grow it yourself." They cried again. But this time, there was peace in the crying. This was now their reality. And they had no choice but to accept it. With their full chest.